Hi everyone, Quiveen here from the comfort of my kitchen. In today's video, we will be looking ahead into June and the upcoming solstice. In the previous video, we did look at the very early part of June, particularly the planets that we will get to see in the morning, but it is later in June that we will have our summer solstice. So here we are, 21st of June, and that is as high as the sun is going to get in the sky for us here in Ireland, which is pretty high in the sky. Even though the sun reaches its highest at this point of the year, we still don't usually reach our hottest for at least another couple of weeks up to another month in very northern or very southern latitudes. The Earth takes a while to heat up. Solid ground and liquid water, they all take a little bit of time to heat up. So we normally have our hottest period of the year at least a little after the summer solstice, and we also have our coldest period of the year a little after the winter solstice. So it is getting warmer. Hopefully it will be warm on the 21st of June, but we won't reach our actual peak here in Ireland until as late as August. And this is generally true the further north you are or the further south you are, the longer the seasons lag behind the actual middle of summer or the middle of winter in terms of the position of the sun. When it actually gets hot or cold for a given country can vary quite a lot depending on where you are in terms of latitude. So this is a phenomenon known as the lag of seasons. It's why winter appears to hit a little bit after the winter solstice, or the coldest period at least tends to hit a little bit after the winter solstice, and the warmest bit a little bit after the summer solstice. So here we are looking all the way forward to the night of the solstice, and we can see there's a little bit of sunset glow as late as midnight. We do use daylight savings time here in Ireland, and I believe that's, it's indicating the time zone here as Europe and Dublin. Because we use daylight savings time, this isn't really the middle of the night. It's not physical midnight any more than our physical midday is at 12 in the summer. So this 1 o'clock on the clock down here, this is closer to the actual physical middle of the night here in Ireland. And that's just due to daylight savings. And you might be able to notice just a little bit of a glow almost directly behind the north, due to the fact that the sun is still up, just a few hundred kilometers that way. If you're in Iceland in June, then the sun will stay in the sky all night long. It's where we get the name the land of the midnight sun for certain northern Scandinavian regions, for example. So the sun is still up just a few hundred kilometers that way into the north. So we're still seeing a little bit of a glow. The sun has set, but there is still light leaking over the horizon, and that glow will simply travel along the horizon until we start seeing it over in the east for the next sunrise. So the shortest night of the year, well, if you're in, for example, Cork City, you don't technically get nighttime at all. We normally think of daytime and nighttime with a little bit of twilight in between, but twilight can last for quite a while, especially in the summer. As long as there's a little bit of an orange glow in the sky, it's not technically nighttime. Here we have 3 planets in the morning at the end of the month, or close to the end of the month. Mercury will be gone at this point. It'll be back in too close to the sun for us to see, but we're still seeing Jupiter, Mars, and Saturn, and Jupiter, if anything, will be easier to see here at the end of the month without Mercury than it would be back at the beginning of the month when it is close to Mercury. So this is something that we dealt with in the last video when I discussed the parade of planets. We can see there the sun is coming up, Mars is disappearing, Saturn is already getting very hard, and we don't actually get to see Jupiter or Mercury at all, despite the fact that they are right in there. They are technically above the horizon, but for us here in Ireland, they're just not in a good position to see. We'll move forward to the 4th there when they're practically right on top of each other. As I mentioned in the previous video, if you are in another part of the planet, then you should be able to see that if you're a bit closer to the equator. And you don't have to be crazy close to the equator around the Mediterranean. Will do. The example I gave in the last video was Washington, D.C. Here we have the moon, Mars, and Saturn early in the month, still pretty difficult to see. But we can see even by the middle of the month, it's becoming achievable. Jupiter is so bright that it can shine out even when there is a lot of the glow of sunrise. And there's Mars, very low to the horizon, definitely visible, and Saturn. This is all still from inside a city sky. And you may have noticed as we looked at the sunset for the later part of June, there's Scorpius nice and high above the south as early as midnight. And in the summer here in Ireland, midnight is just a little bit after sunset, or at least 12 o'clock is a little bit after sunset. We'll take a look at the night of the full moon. I should be able to use that as an example. So there we go, 99.7% full, and it should reach directly above the south, pretty close to 1 o'clock, little after 1 o'clock. There we go, about 1:30. So that is accounting both for daylight savings time and the fact that we're using Greenwich Mean Time as our standard or universal coordinated time based off Greenwich, which is, based on this, it's about 30 minutes to our side. That really just means that the moon or the sun would reach its peak above there 30 minutes before it reaches its peak above here, the moon or the sun. So we can see that there, the moon incredibly low here. When the moon is low to the horizon, an optical illusion makes it look bigger. Generally, the moon will look a little bit smaller when it's higher in the sky. So catching a full moon as it rises, that's when you get to see the full moon looking really big. It is down to an optical illusion. That's also why it's so easy to see the moon with your eyes, but it can be quite difficult to take a photo of it, especially with a mobile phone. We can see here that the moon is going to stay really low all night long on the nights close to the summer solstice. We're just after the summer solstice here on the night of the full moon, which is a coincidence. And of course, the summer solstice and the full moon, they're not part of the same cycle at all. One is the lunar cycle, one is the solar cycle. So the fact that we are getting a full moon there just the night after the solstice, that's really a good coincidence. Or I suppose it is the night of the solstice. This would be the night beginning on the 21st. We've just moved into the 22nd because we're after moving past our official midnight, the midnight that we use, 12 o'clock, even though physical midnight, as we can see here, happens a little bit later. So the moon being very low in the sky, that is kind of the other side of the coin. The sun reaches its highest during the day in the middle of the summer and the lowest during the day in the middle of winter. But the sun and the moon, where we see them in the sky, depends a lot on our tilt and whether or not we're tilted towards them or away from them, and where we see the ecliptic, the line in the sky that the planets follow as well. So we will see the sun at its highest on the summer solstice, and we will see the moon at its lowest on the summer solstice as well, if it's full. The moon will be at its lowest in the sky when it's full around the solstice, but the fact that we're getting a full moon here pretty much exactly on the solstice, that gives us a much easier way to tell. It's very clear. This, of course, is going to contribute to obscuring the Milky Way as well. So far, all of this has been in the city. We will be sticking in Ireland, but I do want to move out to the countryside, as always, to show how much better of a view you can get when you're looking at the sky without any light pollution. So we'll get rid of all of the light pollution there. I won't need to search for the Milky Way because I know where it is. It's right there, in between that teapot of Sagittarius and that red star of Antares, stretching up through the summer triangle. Even if we didn't have the moon, because we're on the summer solstice and because the sky isn't really going to get fully dark at any point of the night, even if the full moon wasn't there, the Milky Way would be obscured to a degree. So we can see here, even at, just after midnight, because there's still a little bit of a glow in the sky and the light of the full moon, the Milky Way is practically invisible. As we move up to our actual physical middle of the night, that's about as dark as the sky is going to get, and the Milky Way is still pretty tricky to see. It has the full moon on one side and that glow peeking over the northern horizon on the other. It is still a nice time to go looking for stars, but it is almost like stargazing on hard mode. You will have a very short amount of time to see things. There will be extra light in the sky blocking things out, and that makes everything just a little bit trickier. There's the Pleiades in the morning, visible just above Jupiter. They would be very hard to spot in the city due to the addition of light pollution on top of the orange-yellow glow. There's Cassiopeia, and over here is Capella. both roughly above the sunrise as well. So we are getting some nice things in the sky as the sun rises, but the sun is rising basically at 4 o'clock in the morning. So you have to get up even earlier to catch the sunrise or stay up even later to catch the sunset. So that's a brief look at how the sky is going to behave, some things that you will be able to see and what will be hard to see as we come up to the solstice. And of course, here we are as late as 10:30. And even in the countryside, there's only a handful of things visible in the sky because it's just so bright. But I hope you do get to enjoy the long summer days, and you can look forward to the actual heat coming a little bit later in the year once the earth has warmed up a little bit from wintertime. We're still warming up from wintertime, or at least the earth itself is. I hope you enjoyed this quick look into the upcoming state of the sky. I will talk more about the solstice when we get there, and of course about the June sky more generally as we're coming through the month. So make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel if you'd like to catch the upcoming videos, and if you'd like to read some of this information, you can take a look at my website, queebeanscontent.ie. Hopefully, I'll see you back here next time.